Today on Locked on Rockies. Well, I was just kind of thinking of a random thing, and, well, you all decided to chime in. Who's the more important Colorado Rocky this season, Kyle Freeland or Kris Bryant? Plus, the Rockies are scoring runs, but unfortunately, letting up a lot as well.
You are Locked on Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked on Rockies podcast for today, the 8th day of March in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked on Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked on Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day, or you can find us on the Locked on Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind, like Moon Unit, who says, great episode in regards to our crossover with Javi Reyes from yesterday. It's good to see the Rockies doing well so far. Maybe it's just the confidence boost they need. It's especially good to see Doyle getting on base and scoring runs with regularity. Good for him. Well, you can have your comments read. You can let me know what's on your mind. You can be part of the show when you subscribe, you follow along, and you fire off your hot takes in the Locked on Rockies YouTube comment section. The best way to help the show grow is by checking us out there on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. That's over at FanDuel.com. All right, we are going to talk about this. Really was just kind of a random thing that I was thinking about. Didn't really necessarily think I was going to be able to get a whole podcast out of this, but you all responded. You all responded very quickly and with a lot of with some great insight. So all I said was on the old X there, I said, question I'm thinking about ahead of tomorrow's show, which is now today's show. Who was more important to the Rockies' success this year, Kyle Freeland or Kris Bryant? Because, I mean, it's kind of, two big vets, two parts of different parts of the game, offense versus defense there. And it was pretty much overwhelmingly Kyle Freeland. Almost every answer was Kyle Freeland up until like my last few answers. And that's very interesting for me, just in the sense of Kris Bryant. I think unless he has a massive season, unless he steps up big time and goes crazy, I think Rockies fans kind of aren't in that. He doesn't have the superstar aura around him. Whereas I think, there's a lot of legacy and honestly, people with hot takes with Kyle Freeland. Because I will put this and make this abundantly clear. I love Kyle Freeland. Kyle Freeland is one of my favorite Rockies players on this roster and of all time. Is he the greatest pitcher ever? Is he even the greatest Rockies pitcher ever? No. But I'm not going to shy away from a guy that's put up an 18 career WAR pitching for the Colorado Rockies in nearly 1,000 innings with over 700 strikeouts. A guy that truly means an incredible amount, not only to to his teammates and and people in the organization, but to fans. Kyle Freeland is an incredibly influential Colorado Rockies player. I would argue outside of Charlie Blackmon, Kyle Freeland has been the most influential Colorado Rockies player since the Nolan Arenado trade and the departure of Trevor Story. The man is very involved in Special Olympics. He's very connected to his hometown. And he's also been someone that's been tasked with leading the rotation now for, 2 seasons? This is going to be the second season, practically even the third, I guess, with Freeland was starter number 1, and then Herman was 2 when they both were healthy. I mean, Kyle Freeland has been looked at as a key person, a key member of this rotation, a leader in this rotation. So really, when I reflected on that, I shouldn't have been that surprised. It's not too shocking, and it's not that outlandish that Rockies fans sit here and believe the key to the Rockies' success is going to come through strong pitching. Let's read through some of the responses I got on X here. Let's see. Reign of Excelsia. Oh, I don't know. I think I got it close. Definitely Freeland. We are used to what the Rockies get from Bryant. Jerry Teresi says this one's about KB. KB, if he is KB, will have more opportunities to directly affect the game in a positive way. Freeland plays once every 5 days, but without a solid late inning bullpen, it doesn't matter even if he's Cy Young. His performance won't matter if the bullpen blows it in the eighth and ninth. That's a good point, Jerry. There were the Rockies starters got a bad rap last year, even for as mediocre to bad as they mostly were. The Rockies starters last year kept games manageable, kept games close, and as we saw through an infuriating chunk of the second part of the season was the Rockies leading up until the seventh or eighth inning, where it just almost felt guaranteed the bullpen was blowing it. And Kyle Freeland was pitching at that time. Zach JD says Freeland pitching, and more pitching. Skylar Strobel says K-Free by far, way more depth at Bryant's positions. Husky Helton is going to the Hall in parentheses. Says Freeland. And Mike Mann, I was on the host of the Around the Ballpark podcast there that I was with. He says, I think Bryant, he needs to show Coors Field-like numbers. Kyle getting some wins alone can't account for the 4 days he isn't pitching. That's a good point. And of course, Evan Lang, the legend himself, says Kyle Freeland as well. Just with the simple Kyle there. No explanation. But well, I'll pick his brain on that when we get him back on the show. But it's clear. I mean, it's clear that Kyle Freeland has a really big season ahead of him. I think he has a season where he wants to prove that he's still got it, prove that he's still a contributor, prove that he's still successful, and prove that he is great. That's the thing that's tough with Kyle. Like, he's had a lot of good defined seasons, but the greatness of his career has been overshadowed. Again, 18 career WAR, almost 1,000 innings pitched for the Colorado Rockies. He's going to pass over 200 starts for the Rockies this year if he stays healthy. 200 games, 1,000 innings. He has a chance at he's gonna flirt with 1,000 strikeouts in his career. He's got a sub 5 ERA at Coors. I mean, you can't sit there and be unhappy with with any part of the Kyle Freeland career. Maybe if you get too caught up in some expectations when they're prospects, but to put up 18 WAR and be this guy, I mean, he doesn't have much to prove, I think, to the Rockies fan, but I think he wants to prove that he is still that guy. He is still this reliable reliever. He can still be effective, and not only just be effective, but be better, be great, show that he still has a cutting edge. If Kyle Freeland, if he finishes this season and his velocity is up across the board throughout the entire season, that's a massive win for the Rockies. That's a massive improvement for the Rockies, because that means Kyle Freeland is going to be giving up less home runs. That means Kyle Freeland is going to be hitting his spots better. That means and you're like, well, it's just velocity. When you look at the advanced ways that Kyle Freeland gets beat, it's when he misses his pitches at a low velocity that throws basically meatballs down the middle. That's the problem with Kyle Freeland when he misses. Low velocity off-speed pitches like sinkers that don't break thrown over the middle of the plate at Coors Field are a big no-no. So if we see that Kyle Freeland sets the tone for this rotation and has a strong and it is the leader, the pitching leader for this team in 2024, well, that's going to mean big things for the Rockies. It truly is. Let's just play hypothetical here, because I know it's probably not going to matter much. But what do you think would mean more for the Rockies overall come All-Star game time? Chris Bryant being an All-Star, or Kyle Freeland. And I think that circles back to, if Kyle Freeland is pitching at an All-Star level, meaning he beats out all of because remember, going by the Rockies probably only getting one person sent to the All-Star game just with how it works. voting and whatnot, the Rockies might get some people in this year. I really do truly believe that the Rockies have some potential all-stars. But let's just keep it in the Kyle Freeland sphere here. I think that's a way bigger storyline. I mean, Chris Bryant playing like an all-star is a big storyline, and the national narrative will love it. The national audience will love that. What little actually pays attention, they'll at least sit there and say, "Hey, Chris Bryant, all-star, comeback player of the year." Blah, blah, that will help the Rockies. But there are things to be excited about on the offense. But if the Rockies representative is a pitcher, is Kyle Freeland of all pitchers, nonetheless. Those kind of two things that I didn't really need to say back to back. But if it is Kyle Freeland, if Kyle Freeland is the Rockies all-star game representative, that is a big win. Or it's a sign that Freeland is in a different spot than the rotation. Because I will sit here and say that Kyle Freeland is the pitcher I have the most confidence in the season. Although I do have more faith in Austin Gomber keeping games close and being a decent pitcher going into this year versus last year. I think he showed us some real toughness last year. But when I think about this question, it really does seem like if we're really talking about what a great season would mean in terms of Rockies' success, I think Freeland can turn things around more. Yes, he's only pitching every 5 days, but that could be setting up a streak. That could be, if you can build off of your vibes when you got a pitcher that's dealing. Just think about some of the games that the Rockies had when Herman was the Rockies all-star, where there was just a moment in time where you just felt like, hey, any game that Herman is up there, he's going to win. If Freeland is able to produce that level of pitching this year, that's going to be a massive, massive story for the Rockies. And I think can swing the pendulum there for them, for him and just for everything. Not the pendulum's a wild card, but I do think that overall the Rockies will be, it's a weird way to kind of formulate it, but a great Kyle Freeland season will lead to more Rockies success than a great Chris Bryant season. Even though that's kind of a weird way to say that, because if they're both great, they'll certainly help the Rockies be better. But as a lot of people have pointed out, if the Rockies get great pitching performances, that will change the game. So let me provide a case for Chris Bryant on the other side of this break. We're also going to talk about some other impact players for the Rockies who need to, through big seasons could mean big things for the Rockies here. We're going to do that and more coming up here in segment number 2 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about some of the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Factor. Eating better. Oh, man. Classic. Don't you just love setting yourself up for a win when you just stumble over the first word of the read? Eating better is easy with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to go in just 2 minutes. You'll have over 35 options to choose from every week, including Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Also, there are more than 60 add-ons to help you stay fueled up and keep feeling good all day. If you're in a hurry, 2-minute meals you're going to be your favorite thing. Fuel up fast with Factor's restaurant quality meals that are ready to heat and eat wherever you are. Factor is the perfect solution if you're looking for fast premium options with no cooking required. You can sign up and save. We've done the math. Factor is less expensive than takeout, and every meal is dietitian approved to be nutritious and delicious. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnMLB50 and use code LockedOnMLB50 to get 50% off. That's 50% off. That's code LockedOnMLB50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnMLB50 to get 50% off. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. I know it's late today. Apologies for that. A little flip around on my day-to-day schedule kind of got in the way of things. But talking kind of just a random hypothetical here that I got some good engagement on there. Yes, from the old X machine yesterday there. Who is more important to the Rockies' success this year, Kyle Freeland or Chris Bryant? And everyone was saying Kyle Freeland, and pitching is very important, especially your number one starter. I agree there, and I do think that overall it is Kyle Freeland can play the bigger factor, but we don't the greatest question in this too, and this feeds into everything really we've talked about with Chris Bryant as we project 2024. We don't know what a full season of Chris Bryant looks like. We're the power numbers and everything being down are a huge concern, but yet when we're looking at that, what will change if he plays 2 months in a row? Like really gets to get in a groove and go through the ups and downs of 2 straight months of baseball. I mean, there's just so many what ifs. There's so many what could happen, what might be, maybe perhaps with Chris Bryant that we really don't know about. Like, it's hard to really think about the like to just kind of discount how impactful an all-star caliber Chris Bryant could be for the Rockies. And again, if Chris Bryant's playing at an all-star level, what does that mean for these other players? I know it's not really exactly what we're looking for, but Chris Bryant could, I mean, if he's mashing the ball over the yard, if he's really being a key piece to the top of the lineup, I mean, he providing you MVP talent in your lineup is a great thing. It's just going to be the question of, are we going to see that? Are we finally going to get this healthy Colorado version of KB? And since we don't know what that looks like, since we don't really know what that possibly could be as Rockies fans, obviously you can go and look at the Cubs and stuff. I get that. But I'm talking about Rockies fans. We don't really know how much he'll change the game. If we actually starts living up to the moments where we're hyping him up and we're excited and we're building up the narrative of Chris Bryant in our head, I mean, that's going to be huge. That means, all-star Chris Bryant makes the rest of that offense more confident. An all-star Chris Bryant means that you're getting the most, you're showing why you did what you did. And hopefully, if you're getting all-star Chris Bryant, he's not going to be the only one. I mean, I don't want to over excite everyone here, but it shouldn't be that outlandish that the Rockies have multiple representatives at the All-Star game this year if everyone is able to take some steps forward in the young guys or go back and play, get back to what they're great at. I mean, what if it's both of them? And when you're really talking about like 2 veteran players that if they're all playing all-star caliber baseball, I mean, I can't even, that's just massive. Again, it's not going to make everything immediately better for the Rockies, but man, they're going to be in a better spot. So these are just 2 guys in a list of really many that have potential to be really influential. So I asked again on X, and I got a couple of answers here. If there was any other players that really feel crucial to the team's success here. And we got another one from Mike Mann. He says Montero needs to force his way on the everyday lineup this spring. A hot Bryant with Montero and Jones packs a bunch that could swing more W's. That's right. I mean, if you can outslug, if your pitching is going to be weak and you can go blow for blow and hit your way back into the lineup and hit your way back into the win column and hit your way back into the league or the lead, I'll love it. Matthew Garcia says, with the amount of games lost late last year, I'm thinking the bullpen, specifically Riley Pint and Jaden Hill. I would love to see both of them succeeding in games where the Rockies are protecting a lead. Yeah, bullpen players, it can't be understated, and it would be massive if it's led by those two guys. I mean, if you had Riley Pint especially, I mean, talk about the redemption story that would be if Riley Pint's able to come up and be a key piece of this Rockies bullpen, and Jaden Hill, a lot of eyes on him. It would be really, really great a sign that the Rockies are taking steps forward if the bullpen is good and led by young guys with that mix of like Justin Lawrence is now a vet and he's still interesting. You're gonna have Daniel Bard in there. It's gonna be eventually. It'll be interesting to see how that would pan out. But if the young guys are leading the way for the bullpen, I would talk about another storyline that would be awesome for the Colorado Rockies, and you'd absolutely love to see. Evan Lang again, honestly, Charlie Blackmon. And this is an interesting one as well. Charlie Blackmon has to be effective because there will, it's a tough way to say this because I really don't think that he won't ever not be effective. He showed last year that he can still be an effective batter, an effective leadoff hitter, and someone that still contributes to the Rockies. And this was in a season where he's injured. 279 batting average, 363 OBP, a slugging of 440, an OPS of 803, and an OPS plus of 107. Had 100 hits last year, 8 of them for home runs, 40 RBI, 4 stolen bases. And he's easily the Rockies' most professional hitter. The guy that just actually handles the at-bat the best way to go. I mean, he's if he is having a monster season, I mean, that's even better. But the catch-22 with Charlie Blackmon is there might be a moment if things aren't going well for him. Does he take a step back in terms of playing time? No one wants to really see that. I understand that. But something you got to think about. All right, folks. Let's wind down the show here with just a note of caution and something I've noticed as we're continuing to look at things here for the Rockies in spring training. They're scoring a lot. I like it, but they're also letting up a lot of runs. I mentioned this before on not getting, it still is the middle of spring and I don't want to overlook it, but it's kind of been a lot of bloodbaths, a lot more games getting out of hand. And the game that's actually happening right now as we're recording, an example of that. We're going to talk about that coming up in segment number 3. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about some of the folks that make this show possible, and that includes Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels, which you can find locked on, by the way, to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us here at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep you up to date with all things in the world of sports. March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more, not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos, and more. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. So, wanted to close down the week and the episode here with just another thing of, as we look and be optimistic of some things we're seeing in spring, we just got to sprinkle a little bit of reality back into it there. But before we dive into all that, thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. Thank you for finding us on your favorite streaming services. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. The Rockies are continuing to win or tie or, hang in there with some successful baseball. Another week just about in the books here in spring training for the Rockies, and the Rockies win 3 out of 5 games, tying in one of those games, and are currently tied at 7, but playing albeit some ugly baseball in this game here on Friday. And so I just this game here is a prime example, the one that's happening against the Angels on Friday. And yes, there are, people that have been subbed in, and there's been some different lineups and such, but there's a lot of starters that started this game. And there were things with unearned runs. The Rockies do have an error on the day, but the Rockies had a 3-0 lead. And then the Rockies give up a run, and then they make it a 4-1 lead. They give up 6 runs. I mean, this has just happened very frequently. The bad inning has occurred very much for the Rockies, even after they've been sitting in the driver's seat in some of these games and jumping out ahead early. I know everything's still working on it, but this is the type of stuff that will sink the Rockies. You can get away with it now. You can get away with it in spring, but you cannot get away with it in the season. The Rockies bouncing back from a 6-run deficit on the road, which, if you're thinking about that's the hypothetical that this game is creating right now, considering that the Angels are the home team. The Rockies bouncing back from a 6-run inning on the road is just going to be very difficult. They have not done a lot of that. So when you're looking at some of these trends and you're looking at some of these wins, you're like, that's exciting, but 9 runs given up against the Cubs, 9 runs given up against the Mariners, 7 runs given up against the Dodgers, 10 runs given up against the Giants, 6 runs given up against the Rangers, 8 runs given, is it 7 or 8? No, it's 7 runs now given up against the Angels, and possibly counting. I mean, these are shootouts right now. The Rockies have won a lot of games while also giving up a decent amount, and this uptick in runs allowed by the Rockies has started happening more as spring has gone on. The Rockies, were able to keep runners out from scoring earlier in the spring in more success, but obviously it kind of makes more sense with teams warming up a little bit more. But it's just a thing that to keep in mind as we're watching it. I mean, I do like the fact that the Rockies are winning some of these ball games and jumping out ahead. I am. But we can't negate the fact that the Rockies have blown leads in a lot of these games. And we can't negate the fact that there have been a lot of real bad innings in the mix here. On the flip side, for this game on Friday, the Rockies have bounced back. The Rockies gave up that big inning and now have scored 3 runs now. It's the bottom of the 8th is currently ongoing in the game, but the Rockies are able to bounce back, put runs back on the board, and get themselves back tied into this ball game. Great sign. It's just stop putting yourself in that situation. Stop squandering a 3-0 lead. Those type of situations, you can't be blowing 3-0 leads if you jump out ahead early. A 3-0 lead early in the game has got to keep you in the driver's seat for a while. You got to build on that, and you got to carry on that momentum. So just something I'm a little worried about over this last week of watching Rockies ball and through the spring, but the Rockies still winning, still being successful so far. So we'll see how they can carry it on and how they can carry those winning ways to the regular season, which is just really knocking on the doors. A couple of weeks away here before its opening day. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day and joining us here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. You can find us on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel as well. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB, or if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Buffs, all available free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. How about them Nuggies? Big win last night. Woo-hoo! All right, folks, we'll catch you on the flip.